So I have two thoughts. First is Trump is the result of a, call it, 8 to 10 year plus campaign by the Republican Party of harping away at outsiders are good, insiders are bad. As a party of no. They committed, I mean, Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, said very publicly that the purpose of the Republican Party, the platform of the Republican Party, is to deny the president any wins. I mean, that's not a platform, to be anti a person versus for the people. So for 8 years, they've been harping on and on and on about being against things, being against a person, and fomenting fear, all for short-term gains. Well, guess what? They've created an environment where the most anti, the most fear-mongering, the most outsider personality has a platform to rise. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the fact that they had so many candidates all vying with their own egos, that it spread all the votes around. So all the moderates were basically had their votes spread around, where the extremists sort of could rise up because there were fewer of them. So they have themselves to blame for that. The other part of it is, I think we as a nation need to take some responsibility. You know, I tend to believe that our politicians are a reflection of who we are. Our politicians reflect our nation. And this is as true for Britain as it is for the United States. We kind of get the politicians we deserve, right. You know? And maybe we're the ones that could be a little more cooperative. And maybe our nation could be a little less anti and a little less negative. And if you look at the state of the nation right now, black versus white, red states versus blue states, Republicans versus Democrats, Labor versus management, it's really the worst it's ever been. And maybe our politicians are forcing us to hold up a mirror and take a very hard look at ourselves and saying, we've kind of done this. We're the ones that have built this environment. Mm. And maybe we're getting what we deserve. Mm. So I think before we start casting stones, I think we need to take a very hard look at ourselves and sort of accept some responsibility. Yeah. And maybe be embarrassed and say, what can I change in my life or the way I lead my company that would deserve different kinds of leaders?
Yeah. Yeah, because that might have been the lingering damage of 9/11. Obviously, a lot of damage is done on 9/11. But if the population's got fear, and Donald Trump's mentioned, Muslims, all this type of thing, maybe it's playing on that anxiety and fear. And as you said, that's not a good motivator. Carrots are better than sticks. It's interesting. You actually wrote on your blog, Start With Why. You said that Donald Trump has little viable policy ideas to back up his fear stoking is irrelevant. As a PR expert explained to me, people don't listen to television, they watch it.
That's correct.
Donald Trump is pretty fantastic to watch. Dangerous, isn't it, in democracy?
He is pretty great to watch.
Yeah.
He is pretty great
to watch. He's done well on The Apprentice. And that's the danger, I guess, with democracy sometimes, is the fact that people vote in people for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, the famous Nixon-Kennedy debate, which is the very first televised debate in the United States, is often called upon by political historians to show the power of television, because everyone who listened to the debate on the radio thought Nixon had it, but anybody who watched it gave it to Kennedy because Nixon looked nervous and he had this famous bead of sweat that rolled down his face, where Kennedy was confident and dry, and Kennedy in large part won the election thanks to television. Yeah. Well, since the introduction of television in the United States in politics, we've only had 2 presidents that were under 6 feet tall. Jimmy Carter is 5 feet 9.5, and George W. Bush is 5'11.5", so just shy. In other words, imposing figures on television. And the moderates, if you look at Kasich or Lindsey Graham, just were rubbish on television. They had no personalities. Where Trump is pretty fantastic on TV. In fact, all the telegenic ones are the ones that seem to be doing better. So we can't dismiss the television or screen-based way in which politics exists today as part of the reason. Yeah. And the other reason is, I think, in the United States, we're so fed up with all politicians. We're so fed up with their infighting. We're so fed up with their inability to get anything done. We're so fed up with them putting themselves before us that it's not that we like Donald Trump for who he is. It's that people like Donald Trump for who he's not. Because he's not like the politicians, and it's a bit of a vote against the incumbency rather than for him, I think.
You were born in Wimbledon, so you can't solve the problem and start running as a.
I wouldn't ever want to run for political office in the United States.
Why do you think people do that? Why do you think Trump? I mean, Trump's got more money than It's interesting that and Berlusconi in Italy is the same thing. Is it just a power thing in your opinion?
No, Trump has always been a laughingstock. He's not been taken very seriously by the establishment. And I think his run for president, which he tried a few years ago, he tried the last time. He tried for governor of New York as well. It's his own ego, his desire to be taken seriously. Yeah. And I don't think he ever expected to get this far, quite frankly. I think he decided to run for president just to legitimize himself and be taken seriously by the establishment, because he wasn't satisfied just making tons of money.
Maybe I was starting to get scared of his own heights then.
So I don't think he expected to get this far, quite frankly.
No.
And I'm not sure he knows what to do with it.
No.
Because it wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
Wasn't in the plan, anyway.